drop and give me 25. I'm the gunny.
It's time for the gunny.
The quarter deck. Lights. Get online right now. You got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Hello, my bunch of knuckle-dragging, beer-drinking, hard-charging devil dogs. You're listening to The Quarter Deck. I am your host, Miguel, the Gunny Signs.
Get off the bus!
I do solemnly swear. That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. You're listening to The Quarter Deck with Miguel, the Gunny Signs. Good morning, everyone, and I hope that everybody has had an outstanding week, a great weekend last weekend, and are so ready for the month of October to come to an end. It's very hard to believe that we're already in October 27th of 2022. Can you guys believe how fast this year has gone by? This week on the Quarter Deck, we're going to continue our reading of No Better Friend, No Worst Enemy as we continue to progress in the development of the planning for the 1st Marine Division to head into Iraq. Our reading this week of our Medal of Honor winner recipient is going to move on, and we're going to discuss another great hero, Lieutenant Colonel Harold William Bauer, United States Marine Corps, and see what he did in his citation in order to go ahead and earn that Congressional Medal of Honor. We're also going to take a look at a new program that the VA is going to start implementing, which is a new form of life insurance that they're going to start to offer to our veterans with service-connected disabilities. So just a quick update following last week when I told you guys about the preparation for the Navy ball and getting ready to go down there to do the photography for our fellow corpsmen that are stationed here aboard the Marine Corps Air Station in Yuma at our medical facility. So how should I start? Well, our day started pretty interesting, starting just to get everything packed up into our vehicle. And we left here about 2:30 to get there by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. All right, so that's 14:30 to arrive at 1500. Now, once we got there, it took us 2 trips to actually offload all the equipment and the gear that I needed to go ahead and take into the casino. Now, with that, I had told you guys that they had our setup there where they wanted me to set up right there in the hallway outside of the ballroom. And it was maybe about, I want to say, about at the entrance of the ballroom area, right as soon as you go past the casino. So we were right there at the entrance area, and it was still a good ways down the hallway in order to get down there to the ballroom. So we set everything up, got everything ready to go, and the workers there were very helpful because they went ahead and they got us some tables to set up around our area to kind of block off the area to just have one entry point going in and the same way to come out for the couples to go in there to make sure that we had a way of controlling the flow of the people going in there. Now, my wife is the one that handled basically all of the selection of all of the packages that they wanted to purchase, as well as being able to take the payments, and I did help her with that while I was getting the people inside there to take their pictures. While this was a very small ball, I think in total they told me anywhere from 100 to 150 people were going to show up to the ball, and they had a setup for 123 people there in the ballroom. And I gotta say, I don't think all the chairs were full when I went in there and started taking pictures of the ceremony. There was a lot of empty chairs. But let me walk you guys through the naval ceremony. I mentioned to you guys that this is my first time ever going to a naval ball. I've never been to a Navy birthday ball, so I really had no idea what to expect. Now, to my surprise, there were some Marine guests that were invited to attend the ball. Now, I don't know if maybe because they are married to Navy personnel or they were just simply invited to go. I know I saw a couple of sergeants majors, a gunnery sergeant, and so forth that were actually there to enjoy into the festivities. Well, as the ceremony got started, they got everybody inside of the ballroom. Now, if you guys can imagine, the ballroom is dim. It's kind of dark in there as soon as you walk in there. a very quiet and prepared crowd in order to get the ceremony started. Once everything started, of course, they started with the posting of the colors, and the color guard came out with the colors and marched forward center stage, did a turn, and then were facing the crowd. And then, of course, a national anthem was played, and then the colors were posted. Then they had the typical, the guy talking to the crowd was there giving his speech and all so forth and everything else. And then they had their reading birthday message from their commandant. I think that's what you call the Navy, head of the Navy. I'm not really sure, but I'll call him the commandant. I apologize to all my Navy listeners, but I don't know what the heck you call it. I'm a Marine. I'm not really familiar in the terminology that you guys have in the Navy, but I am going to learn it because it is part of the traditions of the history of the Marine Corps when we are part of the Department of the Navy. So they had their reading, and then they played Anchors Aweigh, of course. They had a guest speaker. He was actually a corpsman back during Vietnam that worked with the Marine units out there. And he talked about his time out there and how he loved working for the Marine Corps as a part of the green side is as a corpsman. So he loved that, and he talked about it over and over again on how he just simply enjoyed it. And he thanked all of the corpsmen that were there that were part of the green side. And he understood that their job was a difficult one, but that they knew and that he was aware that they would do their job to the best of their ability to take care of the Marines. Now, here aboard the air station, I'm not even sure how the corpsmen worked. If there's a corpsman assigned to the units, I know they have their different air wings, their squadron, as they call them. But I don't know, because since I'm so used to having boots on the ground and having a corpsman actually there on the ground with our unit, I know for us as an artillery battery, we had 3 to 4 corpsmen assigned to us to make sure that we had more than enough to take care of the Marines while we were out there on the field or we were out there in a combat environment. Then after the reading of their birthday message, they actually all stood up and they all recited the Navy Enlistment Creed. That was a surprise to me because I really had no idea that they did that and stuff. Once they recited the creed, in every ceremony, especially with us in the Marine Corps, they also set up a table for all the fallen service members, Marines and so forth that are no longer there, with the inverted plate, the salt, the lime, and all that stuff and everything else that is there in the entry as you walk into the ballroom. Well, in their ball, they actually have it on stage, and they come out and they bring every item one by one and place it there. So that way it's set up there on top of the stage. So it's very interesting the way that they did that, but it made for another portion of the actual ceremony. And then came the long-awaited cake cutting ceremony. This is a little different compared to the Marine Corps. They bring the cake out into the center to have the oldest Navy personnel, the youngest Navy person there, and the guest speaker, youngest corpsman that was there. They were born in 2002. The youngest, and she was the one that assisted in cutting the cake. And they did cut it with the sword, a Marine NCO sword they used to actually cut the cake. Now, one thing that caught me off guard, I'm used to it that in the Marine Corps, when they go and they cut the actual cake, they cut off one piece of cake, and that piece is shared with the guest of honor, the oldest and youngest Marine. With this ceremony, she actually cut the cake into pieces that they were going to serve to everybody right then and there with the NCO sword. So it took a while for the cake to get cut, and then once they did that, they got the piece, they passed it to the oldest, the guest of honor, and then the youngest corpsman that was present there. Once that was done, the cake was taken back to the back, and then they ring a bell in memory of all the Navy personnel that are no longer there or they were lost in battle. So all in all, I gotta tell you guys, it went fairly well. We had a good learning experience regarding the Navy Ball and what exactly they do in their ceremony. So for that, I am very, very thankful to the Yuma Regional Ball Committee for allowing us to be able to go there and help them to document and make memories that are going to last them a lifetime. And I also want to thank all the individuals that purchased packages from us, whether it was a digital package or an actual print package that have already been delivered to all the clients, or they're on their way. They should receive it by either today or tomorrow. in the mail. So that's what's been going on for us this whole entire week. As you guys can see, it's been kind of busy with the editing and all that stuff with the pictures, but was able to get them done way ahead of schedule and get them to the client as fast as I possibly could. So that was a plus. That was a great thing that I was able to get done. And yesterday I turned in the last of the pictures, which was the pictures from the actual ceremony. And as a plus, I even created a music slideshow for them that normally I charge a lot extra for, but I figured that'd be a good birthday present for the United States Navy. And again, Navy, I want to wish you guys a happy 247th birthday. The Quarter Deck. The Quarter Deck is brought to you by Miguel Science Photography. From the beginning of your family to the first birthday and beyond. Whether it's a retirement or a Marine Corps ball, Miguel Science Photography is there to make memories that will last a lifetime. Miguel Science Photography is a certified veteran-owned business. Contact them at miguelsciencephotography.com. This week I was going through va.gov and taking a look and see if there was anything new that I could find on there, and I found an article regarding life insurance that the VA offers. As we all know, the VA already has insurance that they offer to their veterans and stuff like that, but it is a 5-year renewable policy that you have to renew every single 5 years. So that means that every 5 years your premium is going to increase and it's going to change. The VA, starting in 2003 of January, is going to provide what is known as VA life insurance. It's a new program that's going to start during that time. Now it's going to be launched during that time, and what this program is that you're going to be able to qualify for VA life insurance of anyone that is 80 years old and under with any level of service-connected disability. Okay, so some veterans that are ages 81 and older may also be eligible, so they will just have to make sure that they apply depending on their conditions and if they have been deemed to have a new service-connected disability, that it's going to make them eligible for them to apply. Now, what exactly is guaranteed in being accepted in this life insurance? Okay, what is guaranteed is that this life policy does not require you to have a medical exam or ask any kind of health questions. It also doesn't have a limited 2-year window for you as a veteran to actually sign up. Whole life insurance provides coverage for the entire life of the individual policy holder, as long as the premiums are being paid on time. Obviously, that's kind of common sense. You have to make the premium payments. The premium rates are locked in to the life policy once you apply for your policy. Unlike term policies, it will not increase as the policyholder gets older in life. Now, Public Law 116-3115, this is what created this whole program. This new program is going to meet the needs of any service-connected veteran who may not have previously qualified for life insurance with the VA. So this offers guarantees acceptance through the whole life insurance coverage and lasts an entire lifetime for the individual. Now, there's some of the things that, that are going to make you qualify for this and what it has, okay? Like I mentioned earlier, all service-connected veterans age 80 and under with a rating of 0 to 100% VA disability ratings are eligible. Now notice that it starts at 0%. So even if you have service-connected conditions, but you have a 0 rating that you don't rate to have compensation for it, you're still going to be eligible to apply for this benefit. So there's a fully automated online enrollment with instant approvals once you sign up online. Now this coverage does come with increments starting at $10,000 all the way up to a maximum of $40,000. And the premiums are competitive, okay, or better than what's available out there in the private sector. So that's a good thing. There is a 2-year waiting period for full face value coverage to take effect. Exactly what that's going to mean or what the VA means by that, it really doesn't say in the article. But, we're going to continue to look at it and do some more research coming up until January. So again, there's no medical requirement for the enrollment. That's awesome. That is a big, huge plus for all our veterans that have service-connected conditions. The cash value that builds up over the life of the policy after the first 2 years of the enrollment is going to be great for that individual veteran. And again, the rates are locked in. Once they apply, they're locked in. Now, when we look at exactly who is eligible, you heard me mention it a little bit earlier, but I'll go over that one more time. Anybody that's 80 years or younger with a VA disability rating of 0 to 100 are eligible for the VA life policy. There is absolutely no time limit to apply for this policy. So what are we waiting for? Let's take advantage of this. I'm most definitely going to take a look at it come January to see exactly what this program is going to be offering, all that stuff. Okay. Now, if any veteran that is 81 years old, they can apply for the VA life insurance within 2 years of receiving a new service-connected disability rating. So that is awesome that they're going to be able to do that within those 2 years time frame for them to actually be able to apply for that. So that is awesome for them to do that. But what that's going to mean is that they would have to have applied for disability compensation before they turned 81, and now they're going to be receiving that new service-connected disability rating after they turned 81 years old. So there's still going to be stipulations to when and how you can apply for that stuff, but it's going to be so much better because it's going to open up life insurance policy for so many veterans that are out there. It's going to do that, and it's going to be great for them to be able to have that stuff. Okay, so a lot of service members have the Service Disabled Veterans Life Insurance Program, or the SDVI. With the VA Life, it has no medical requirements, whereas some of the other ones that the VA has does require you to answer a questionnaire for you to be able to qualify for the programs. Now, those veterans who right now hold the SDVI policy have to decide that they can either keep their current coverage or apply for the VA Life when the application starts going live in January. Okay, now they can keep their SDVI policy until the full coverage of the VA Life begins 2 years after enrollment, as long as the application is received between January 1st of 2023 and December 31st of 2025. So that is awesome. So that this way there's no gap in life insurance policy coverage during that time frame. They can still have the SDVI policy and get on board with this new VA life insurance policy. Okay, so any SDVI is going to close the enrollment after December 31st. Veterans that are going to be interested in the SDVI have to apply by that date. Okay, even if they're interested in applying for VA Life in the year, if applying for the SDVI, it allows now eligible veterans to have the life insurance coverage while they're waiting for that 2-year period. So again, that is awesome. That is an outstanding process that the VA is going to. So January 1st, 2023 is when the application process is going to go live for you to actually be able to start applying. Once the program is actually open, the applications are going to be available at www.benefits.va.gov/insurance/VA-life.asp. And again, va.gov is where you're going to find the link to this application process. So make sure that you keep up to date with everything going on va.gov, our go-to website for any new or upcoming benefits that may be eligible for you as a veteran, and all of you transitioning service members. Take a look at it because you want to make sure that you continue to have life insurance coverage. If this is something that is important to you, to make sure that you know that your family is going to have something to use to take care of any debts or anything that you may have when you're no longer here. Sometimes it's something that we really don't want to think about and that we don't want to plan for. It is important for you to be able to have a plan to be able to leave your family set up so that way they don't have to worry about taking care of any of those things that you might have left behind that maybe need to be paid off. So again, remember, January 1st of 2023, this will go live. Take a look at it on va.gov.
What we're going to do right here is go back, way back into time.
So the planning phase has begun to be completed, and now it's time to actually start executing the plan to get the actual 1st Marine Division into the fight. So getting the force to the fight, I mean, how exciting is that to get the Marines into that? Now, I don't know about any of you, but for me, when I enlisted into the Marine Corps, I knew that there was going to be a chance that I would end up going into some kind of combat environment. It's not like I'm looking to go into for a fight, but I understand that all the training and everything that we're doing to prepare ourselves now is actually going to get put to the test. My father was part of Desert Storm back in the 90s. So, he left and went deployed and they did what they had to do. And when all this happened regarding, Saddam Hussein, that it was doing all that to the people in Iraq and so forth and everything else, my father told me something that, I remember every single day. What he told me was, all right, mijo, he said, I started it. It's time for you to go out there and actually finish everything that we need to do down there in the Middle East. Now, we all knew that, the Middle East is always one of the hot zones that there is in the world. Now, there's always hot areas in the world going on every single day. North Korea, Iraq, Iran, so forth. All those different places are always doing something that can possibly cause a ruckus throughout the whole entire world. This was nothing new. So this was something that we knew that eventually would probably happen, but we never got to the point where we actually thought that somebody was going to come into our country and do something to hurt the people of our great nation here in the United States of America. So with that being said, the 1st Marine Division is starting to get ready for that. So let's talk a little bit more about actually how they started to get the force to the fight and continue with our reading of No Better Friend, No Worst Enemy with the 1st Marine Division in 2003. In early December, division representatives attended a MARCENT War Council in Bahrain. During this session, the fluid nature of the planning efforts was noted, as certain basic decisions had not yet been made at higher levels. The operation did not as yet have defined tactical objectives, force flow approval, authorizations for reserve activation, or other supporting documentation, making the march to a detailed plan more dependent on assumptions than desired. It was clear to the division that even if the detailed plans had not been approved at the highest levels, combat operations were going to take place in Iraq at some point in the near future. The division lobbied for more aggressive force posturing in theater and the beginning of the flow of Marine forces to join the significant Army forces that had already been deployed to Kuwait. This proved to be challenging for many, as some outside operational chains were not universally convinced that combat operations would take place. These holdouts were hedging their support of the division's preparation efforts with missions elsewhere in the world and in rhythm with the peacetime measures of assignment and procurement. To the division's good fortune, Microsyscom under Brigadier General Bill Caddo did not fall into this category. They continued to be the division's strongest advocate for bringing proven capabilities online rapidly and continued to move aggressively to equip the divisions with the latest equipment that could be brought to theater and integrated prior to crossing the line of departure. Now that's interesting because I can remember that during that time frame we had the 800 series 5-ton trucks that we used to pull our howitzers. Now if any of you can picture this, these are vehicles that they used during Vietnam and all those time frames. They were the old looking like almost deuce and a halves type trucks, but these were 5 tons. They were manual transmission, and this is what we were using to actually tow our howitzers. And right now, during this time, the Marine Corps was actually doing training and development of the new 7-ton trucks that were going to be used to actually pull the howitzers. Now, these trucks, the new ones that they were bringing into action, were very powerful and had more than enough power to actually tow the howitzer. Whereas the 800 series and 900 series trucks that we had were right at max capabilities of actually being able to pull the howitzer. Previously, forceful planning had been based on specific operational plans, or OPLAN, time-phase force deployment data, or TPFDD. The careful force flow sequence for this OPLAN had been updated over the course of the summer of 2002. Providing a master script written for planned force flow sequence under a specific deployment scenario that included a defense of Kuwait. The division's deployment planners under Lieutenant Colonel Clark Lethian have built the flexibility into the TPFDD that would allow for its adaptation to new force flow sequence. By packaging the TPFDD by force packages consisting of RCTs, supporting arms, supporting logistics, and a slice of Division C2, the data was made flexible enough to be used in a variety of force flow scenarios. This foresight now proved invaluable as force flow planning took a new turn in December. Instead of deploying the planned TPFDD into theater, forces began to be approved incrementally under the Theater Combat Commanders RFFs. The RFFs were centered on a desire for specific combat units and often did not include the required supporting packages from the division, wing, and the FSSG. Also, an ad hoc combination of modes of transportation would be required. The decision was made to get the MPRONs in early, fly in the Marines, and use fast sea lift ships, or FSSS, to carry what would have been to fly in echelon equipment of the RCTs. would look straightforward on paper would leave a trail of sleepless nights for logisticians and combat commanders from California to North Carolina to Kuwait City. The unfortunate consequence of a changed deployment strategy was the partial disruption of the carefully linked logistics, communications, fires, and maneuver packages that existed in the Opland TPFDD force flow. Under the RFF process, force flow was driven more by available lift, and much of the careful precision and integration that went into planning the TPFDD was lost. Marine embarkation planners now talked in terms of the mother of all deployment orders, or MODEP, and the son of MODEP, SOMODEP, and scrambled to redocument their unit's force flow requirements for a new modes of transport. The impact of the missing key and ballast lost in the RFF process would be felt right through the combat phase, with drivers arriving after their vehicles were offloaded and some CSS units arriving much later than required. Additionally, commanders and staffs focused inward on detailed embark plans at that time when the CG wanted them focused on the enemy and their tactical missions. On 11 January, the President released a long-anticipated deployment order, RFF-177. The division's main body began deploying to Kuwait. With the flow of Marine forces approved, attention was turned to the task of moving more than 20,000 division Marines and their equipment to theater. Preparing for their arrival was another significant challenge, and the division forward CP immediately turned to the task. Now that was a big old cluster fuck. When I remember that we were getting ready to leave and to deploy, what they're talking about, that it was a mess since everything was completely changed. That is the simplest way that you can actually put it. Because yes, our vehicles, our gear, our equipment were already in country, and yet our units were still not deployed. We were still not on the ground in preparation to receive our equipment. Now for us, since we are artillery, our howitzers and some of the vehicles that we use and everything, some of ours were sent by ship over there into country. Not many though. Our howitzers, 7 tons, came off of embarkation ships that were floating already out there, and that gear went out there into the Middle East. It was offloaded in Kuwait, and then it was driven from there to our staging camps to where we were going to be. So we sent advanced party Marines that were actually drivers of the 7 tons to go out there to receive these vehicles and then go ahead and drive them on down. But the issue was that the vehicles and everything was already offloaded off all these ships. Now they had to be stored. And they had to sit there until the individual Marines from each unit arrived to be able to get that equipment back into country to their staging point. So you guys can see the frustration and how it would have been a nightmare for a lot of commanders, because it was just a drastic change to everything that had already been put into place. And now things were going to be done completely different. But like any Marine, the division adapted, overcame, and continue to push forward even with the changes that were coming up ahead. With the division now in preparations to actually get into country and get on the ground, everything is going to start coming into place. Of course, plans are going to develop, things are going to change, and the division is preparing for those changes. But the most important thing is that finally, the troops are being sent into country to be able to prepare for what is going to happen next. So with our book, No Greater Friend, No Worst Enemy, with the 1st Marine Division in Iraq, we're finally moving into the embarkation phase of getting everybody there. Next week, we'll continue our reading and check on the progression of the 1st Marine Division. Hero Highlight. This week, we're looking into the citation for the Medal of Honor of Lieutenant Colonel Harold William Bauer, United States Marine Corps. Lieutenant Harold William Bauer, who was shot down. This week, we're going to look into the Medal of Honor citation of Lieutenant Colonel Harold William Bauer, United States Marine Corps. It's amazing how certain individuals, no matter what their job was, the things that they did in order to ensure that our country was safe, our freedom was protected, and everything that they went through in order to earn this award, which I'm pretty sure that for many of them, they weren't even trying to get any kind of an award. It just so happened that somebody put them in for this award after they were no longer here. Let's go ahead and take a look at Lieutenant Colonel Harold William Bauer's Medal of Honor citation. Lieutenant Colonel Harold William Bauer, who shot down 11 Japanese planes during World War II, was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions as a fighter squadron commander during the crucial struggle for control of the Solomons. On 28 September 1942, Lieutenant Colonel Bauer performed the first feat cited in the Medal of Honor. His squadron was attacked by a superior force of Japanese planes on that day and undaunted by the odds. He engaged the enemy and shot down one of their bombers. Again, attacking a superior force on 3 October, he shot down 4 of the enemy and left a 5th badly damaged. While leading a reinforcements flight on 16 October from Espiritu Santo of Guadalcanal, 600 miles away, Lieutenant Colonel Bauer was about to land at Henderson Field when he noticed a squadron of Japanese planes attacking the USS McFarland offshore. Though the long flight from Espiritu Santo had almost exhausted his fuel, he knew no friendly planes were able to assist him. He immediately proceeded alone to attack the enemy and succeeded in destroying 4 of them before lack of gasoline forced him to return to Henderson Field. He was forced to ditch his plane over water on 14 November after downing 2 of the enemy in an attack 100 miles off Guadalcanal. He was last seen in the water in his Mae West, a water flotation device, and did not appear to be seriously hurt. Days of intense searching by planes and Russell Island natives failed to locate any further trace of him. The squadron under his command at Guadalcanal was officially credited with downing 92 Japanese planes and helping to sink 2 of their destroyers. Lieutenant Colonel Bauer was commended for his actions in the South Pacific by commanders of the Army, Navy, and Marine Corps units, including Admiral William F. Halsey, Jr., then the commander of the South Pacific Area and South Pacific Force. Harold William Bauer was born in Woodruff, Kansas on 20 November 1908 and grew up in North Platte, Nebraska. He entered the Naval Academy from Nebraska in 1926, and after graduation in 1930, he was appointed a Marine second lieutenant. Following his commissioning, Second Lieutenant Bauer attended the Officers' Basic School at Quantico, Virginia. He was then assigned as a company officer with 1st Battalion, 6th Marines at Quantico after completing the basic school there. In 1932, he became assistant basketball and lacrosse coach at the Naval and an instructor in marksmanship until his assignment in the San Diego Naval Base, where he was assistant range officer. He was promoted to the 1st lieutenant on 29 May of 1934. He was then assigned to the Naval Air Station in Pensacola, Florida. In December of 1934, where he earned his wings as a Marine aviator in February of 1936, he was promoted to captain on 30 June 1937. He was transferred to the Naval Air Station San Diego, California in June of 1940, where he served as squadron officer of a fighter squadron. While stationed in San Diego, he participated in carrier group exercises on the USS Lexington and USS Saratoga. When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor in December of 1941, he was sent to Midway for duty as a squadron commander. He was transferred to Hawaii in February of 1942 and then was ordered to the South Pacific, where he took command of Marine Fighter Squadron 212. He was promoted to major on 29 April of 1942 and lieutenant colonel on 7 August of 1942. In addition to the Medal of Honor, Lieutenant Colonel Bauer's medals and decorations include Letter of Commendation Ribbon, Purple Heart, Presidential Unit Citation, American Defense Service Medal, Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal with 1 battle star, and the World War II Victory Medal. the quarter deck. As the year is coming to an end, let's not forget that it's also almost the end of the fiscal year for the U.S. government, and this includes all the funding for the VA and everything with new programs that are coming about. And just like we talked about today, let's not forget about the VA life insurance that is coming out in January. So take advantage of it, apply. Again, you're never going to know and understand if you qualify for these things if you do not go and actually apply for these benefits that are being provided for you that you may not even have any clue that you may qualify for. We looked into talking about Lieutenant Colonel Harold William Bauer, the United States Marine Corps, and his Medal of Honor citation. Now, he's an air winger, a pilot, and we, when I say we, I'm talking about me and all the other ground units, we really don't know and understand anything about the air wing and the things that they do. All we know is that there are a bunch of air wingers that grow their hair out, wear sunglasses, put their hands in their pockets, and just call each other bro. Which now, later on, now I am retired, I have to come find out that no, that is not all that they do, and is not what they do every single day. Yes, they may be a little more relaxed with their haircuts and stuff like that, but whatever. Their commanders allow, hey, whatever, it is what it is. But they work very hard. They work hard 24 hours a day. They have shifts. They have a day shift. They have a night shift because they have to make sure that the squadrons are always taken care of. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Harold William Bauer did outstanding things. He shot down 11 Japanese planes during World War II. Think about that. 11 planes that he was able to shoot down that were causing chaos, discontent, and were trying to bring bodily harm to the forces of the United States of America. So this goes to show you again what somebody is capable of doing when they are put into a situation that they may not even want to be at, but they look back at their training and they focus on what they were taught, and the muscle memory takes over and they do things that they possibly never in their life thought that they were capable of doing. Now, unfortunately, he lost his life during this time, but we are grateful. Thank you, sir. I appreciate everything you did for our country, and thank you for continuing the legacy that allowed me to follow everything that you did now in my Marine Corps career. Our book, No Greater Friend, No Worst Enemy, with the 1st Marine Division in Iraq of 2003 is starting to come into place. Now, the troops are actually being deployed and being sent into country in preparation. So the whole plan that they had into place is now finally to come into actual reality. Even though, as we know it, and as they talked about this week, everything on paper always looks great. Everything looks good, and it's good to go. However, when it actually comes into actually making it all work, it's a complete different story. But they're starting to get in place, and they're starting to make it work. So it's good that we're moving along and starting to find out exactly what is going to happen here in the next couple of weeks with our division. So as this week goes by, I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of your week this week, and everybody has a great and happy Halloween. Give out lots of candies. Don't be a grouch and just give a bunch of lollipops. Let's get some chocolate bars out there and give these kids a chance to actually see what Halloween is actually about, that allows kids to come out and be part of the community. I know for us here in the Signs household, we have our haunted house pretty much almost already set up, and we will have everything up and running for our trick-or-treaters that come here every single year. So until next week, this is Miguel, the Gunny Signs, sounding Liberty Call.
Get off the bus! I do solemnly swear. That I will support and defend
The Constitution of the United States.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.